I'm going to be honest with you all. Maestro was a mixed bag for me. On one hand, undoubtedly, there were some brilliant moments, some great decisions made, some beautiful scenes. But then on the other hand, there were times where the story felt like they were rushing by, it was underdeveloped, and it made it frustrating to watch. What is going on, movie fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all my movie review of the brand new biographical drama directed by Bradley Cooper by the name of Maestro. Now, before we get into my review, and by the end of this video, I'll be sharing with you all my overall score and let you know if it's worth checking out. Do me a favor and start sharing your thoughts on the film in the comments below. Number one, do you plan on seeing this film? But also, of course, once you've seen it, what worked, what didn't work, what performances stood out to you all, and what, if any, awards should this film potentially be nominated for, and maybe even win? Let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments below. So for me personally, I don't like to allow outside influence of a film, like the buzz, whether it's positive or negative, to influence my expectations. But I'll be honest, when I heard some of the good things being said about this at the film festivals, in my head canon, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is a film about a composer, so it's going to be a mixture of last year's Tar meets 2018's A Star is Born. Two brilliant films, and I don't think Maestro hits those high notes those two films hit, but we're here to talk about this film, Maestro, and I want to start off by talking about things that worked for me, starting off with the director and co-lead, Bradley Cooper, who's making his second feature film after the incredible 2018 A Star is Born, and I found his directorial instincts in this film to be very much well-rounded, and he's very much confident in his abilities of being a great director. Now, of course, this film follows the life of the American composer Leonard Bernstein and his rise to fame, as well as his various relationships, but mainly his relationships with his kids and his wife Felicia of 30 plus years and all that comes with that. Now, to me, this film just proved that Bradley Cooper isn't a one-hit wonder. It wasn't a lucky thing that he did in 2018. He's an actual great director, and you see that in this film. He absolutely knows how to capture those intimate moments in this story. He really finds the quiet moments and surrounds it with his unique style. For example, when things need to go over the top, he makes it goes over the top. When we need to have those quieter moments, he knows how to play with those scenes. This is a very large production and a very big story covering the span of the middle 1940s all the way into the late 80s, and Cooper shapes the film in all those different eras with such detail. The composition scenes when he's composing music, when we see Leonard getting involved in that, are undoubtedly memorable and just mesmerizing. So I completely understand the buzz around Bradley Cooper as far as maybe being nominated, and most likely will be nominated for Best Director, because he's really showing you what he has in his wheelhouse, and he does a really great job of putting the great pieces when needed to be on display. He does a good job of bringing those to the forefront. But staying on Bradley Cooper for a second, I also want to talk about him truly transforming himself into Leonard, from the look to the way he spoke to the way he carried himself. Again, those scenes when he's composing this music felt real, and he really brings to life this person who seemed to be bigger than life and the life of the party. Everyone knew he was present in every room he stepped in. He had this huge smile, and he had this big heart, but also he loved people, which was a gift and a curse, as you'll find out in this film, because I wasn't really familiar with his actual story. But that gift and curse of loving people caused a strain on his marriage with Felicia. So I thought Bradley really delivered a solid performance. He really leaned into the major conflict with Leonard, which was being the conductor and the composer in all the elements of his life. But what I really liked about Bradley when he did this film was he gave the spotlight, or should I say she took the spotlight. I'm talking about the incredible actor Carey Mulligan, who plays Felicia. She's honestly the beating heart of this film. She is this timeless actress, in my opinion, and that's really shown this movie. From her being in the 40s and building her career as an up-and-coming actor, to seeing her falling for Leonard and seeing the charm and the infectious personality and the charisma that she carried, to her transitioning to becoming a mother, and seeing her acceptance of Leonard's lifestyle choices, which I forgot to mention a little bit earlier. He is a gay man. That was well documented. You see that in the film, and she accepts that part of his life, but after time goes by, she starts to kind of have regrets and feels like she is in the shadow of this bigger than life person. There's literally a scene where she is in the shadow of him at one of his concerts, but I just thought that she was just so great in this film. She absolutely steals every single scene through and through. Now, I mentioned earlier how there's some really meaty and beautiful and just great decisions made in this film, and there are some great scenes. Like, I think of the scenes when we see him compose composing and making music to him actually on stage at a symphony, and all those scenes felt grandiose. So there are some really great character-driven moments. Like I think of a fight between Leonard and his wife Felicia. And to that point, that fight, to me, the second half of the film is really the meat of the story, when we see their conflict, when we see them disagreeing with one another, when we see him on stage. The first half, which we'll talk about later, wasn't my favorite, but again, those moments are where the film really kind of shines out. And I also want to give praise to the production of this film. We always talk about, de-aging versus CGI and all that different stuff. The hair and makeup to make the actors look younger in the earlier days to older in the later days was absolutely fantastic. So kudos to them. And we also have a really great production when it comes to, again, we're set in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s. All the hair and makeup and costuming were fantastic in this film. All that being said, this is more of a nitpick to me, but early on in the film, which like I mentioned, I found the second half to be the strongest part and the most like engaging part of this film. The first half, we're in the 40s, and I like the costuming, the hair and makeup and all this stuff, but the performances were too performative. Like it was too old timesy type of thing. So that was just like a little nitpick to me. But talking about my criticisms, get into the things that I struggle with in this film. I struggle to really feel like everything came together in a cohesive way when it comes to this screenplay and to the story at hand. Seeing him being a genius composer, in all those moments, you get to see Leonard really being himself, because he can't really be who he wants to be in the public eye. He has to do a lot of stuff behind the closed doors. But when he's composing, that is him 100% through and through. But unfortunately, we didn't get enough of those scenes, in my opinion. Instead, we spent a lot of time on the surface level of those things, and we really didn't dive deep into who he was as a person. We often skip through time very quickly in this movie, and the film tries to keep up with the complicated relationships and the various relationships he found himself in and his marriage, and to me, at times, it felt very superficial and it lacked context. Like, again, I love Carey's performance, but at times the film and the story and the direction at times by Bradley Cooper kind of put the scenario on her where she has to be this stereotypical wife who, in, public appearances, she seems to be very happy. She seems to be very much accepting of his lifestyle. But then behind closed doors, obviously she has some conflict, but we didn't get to see more than that from Carey's character. Like, I really want to dive a little bit deeper into their relationship, into Felicia, and the film really didn't spend too much time exploring their complex relationship. And I'll even use this for example. There are relationships where we see Leonard with other men in this film. Like, we start off with him and Matt Bomer, who's a great actor and really has nothing to really do in this film. Like, we see his young love with him, and then we see Matt Bomer like disappears for parts of the movie, that he pops up again. There's really no explanation of like, how did things end? Did they ever kind of have these offshoot conversations about how their life kind of went, because they both end up marrying women. We don't really explore that like I wanted to. Also, when it comes to a relationship, I believe the character name was Adam, another one of his kind of lovers, but also kind of a protege, where he kind of allowed him to follow him, and we really didn't dive deep into that relationship. Again, it felt like they glossed over the context, and even getting to the moments where there's a moment where Felicia approaches her husband about, listen, our daughter, who's played by Hawke, who I thought was really great in this film, she's hearing rumors about your lifestyle. And we have a scene between a father and a daughter, and it's just that scene when we talk about his sexuality. I really wish the film would have spent time on talking about that struggle of him wanting to have his cake and eat it too. Like, the film never really explores that about Leonard Bernstein. And to me, it kind of boils down to this feeling that the film suffered from like an identity crisis, and it never feels like it fully wanted to flesh things out. This is a film about Leonard Bernstein, a performer and a generational talent, a husband and a father and a person with so many different sides of his life. And while I enjoyed this film a little bit more than the film I'm going to compare it to here, which is Napoleon by Ridley Scott, and that came out a couple of weeks ago at this point where I'm recording this, that movie and this movie, the central theme is this relationship for both like iconic people, right? And the women in their lives. And very much like that film, I feel like the movie could have just focused on one or two of his big symphonies of his career, and leading up to the ups and downs of his symphonies, to even having moments where we're like laser focused on maybe like the last 10 years of his life versus spanning out to 40 years, and just focusing on these elements versus, again, Napoleon, this film, we're expanding on this huge life of this character, and we're missing all the nuance. It feels very episodic versus like actually having moments where you can set into a scene, breathe in the scene. Again, we were just rushing through things so quickly with this movie. Again, the core of this film is about relationships, and I felt a lot of the film glossed over those more detailed moments, and ultimately, it kind of fell in between a solid biopic, and it was more of glimpses and snapshots of this person's life over a span of 40 years. So a lot of left to be desired for me in this story. But before I give you all my overall thoughts, my score, and let you know if this is worth checking out, I want to take the time to thank you all for making it to this point of this video. If you haven't already, consider hitting the like button, sharing your thoughts in the comments, but also consider sharing this video. And also, if you would do me a favor, consider subscribing to the channel. Overall, I felt that Maestro was a perfectly fine film. It's undoubtedly a technical achievement, and Bradley Cooper's performance was solid, and his direction was very ambitious and resulted in some really gorgeous and beautiful moments. Carey Mulligan's performance is both powerful and breathtaking, and he truly shines in this film. But unfortunately, like I mentioned, I struggle to have much of any connections to the story about Leonard's life and their relationships because we skipped through time so quickly, and it felt like the complicated relationships suffered because of that, because they weren't fully developed. The film was a solid follow-up for Cooper as a director, but I hope for more. I'm gonna give Maestro a 3 out of 5, and I do recommend you all watch it. Like it's in theaters as I'm recording this video, so if you get the opportunity to see it in theaters, take the chance. You might enjoy it more than I did, but if not, I believe it will be streaming on Netflix on December 20th. So once you all have seen the film, let's talk about it. What worked? What didn't work? Did you feel like it should have fleshed out things more? What were some of the performances that really stood out to you? And as I talk about like Oscar season coming up here, I can see Bradley being nominated for Best Director, but not winning. I can also see Carey Mulligan being nominated for Best Actress, but also not winning. I have that award going to Emma Stone. So, and also, of course, I see it getting productional nominations, score and all the different stuff. So let me know if you're into the Oscar buzz conversations. Let me know your thoughts on nominations and what it can and maybe possibly could win when it comes to that time of the year. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching today's review. I really appreciate you. Hope you all are staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, consider subscribing to the channel, checking out all my other reviews that I've done so far this year. Check out my most recent review, and I'll catch you all on the next video.